ABC Wednesday.
I'm Joan, and I'm your first Golden Bachelorette.
Joan's getting a second chance.
This is about everybody like me, navigating, trying to find love at this age.
I wouldn't be here if I didn't have hope.
Because love never ages.
Golden age doesn't mean you're old. Old is a state of mind, like a lot of living to do.
The Golden Bachelorette. Series premiere Wednesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
So let's talk some politics about the debate and anything else. We got the great Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and his new book, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. And making a special appearance, Caroline Downey, National Review reporter and a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Caroline, did you know I'm still on the board of the Independent Women's Forum? Did you know that?
I did not. Wow.
Well,
it's a small world.
That's Heather Higgins, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely fabulous on the whole suite of issues. So that's another great thing to know about you, Larry.
No, I'm just saying. Heather Higgins, Heather Richardson Higgins, is a 40-year friend of mine, and I was on her board originally. Then I went down to Washington, and I came back. I can't say I'm very active, but I'm always there for her when she needs some help. Caroline, you had when we talked about the debate on the TV show, you had some really interesting points about Donald Trump's emotionalism and channeling his anger. And I wanted you to talk about that because you're the only person that's really raised that. And I think it's actually very important. And to some extent, and please take this the right way, this is kind of a woman's intuition thing, the way I look at it, something that dumb men like me would never pick up. So take it. Go from there.
And just speaking anecdotally, I have many female family members who are just desperately concerned for their country and their communities in a very intimate way. And when they see Trump get up there and speak from the heart, albeit very passionately and very scrappily, I think they all felt something. Now, the Beltway will tell us that Trump has never changed, that Trump's demeanor is caustic, and that this debate performance was nothing new. But I think there was something palpably different about the way that he was trying to speak to voters. And it was basically an admonition. It was not this polished, flowery, everything's going to be fine. And that's why the bubble in Washington and the rest of the country, I think, had different opinions about the debate, because Washington insiders said Harris won because they care more about delivery and polish. And they're too insulated from the policy effects to care about anything else. But the Times, Reuters, and the BBC found that voters leaned toward Trump after the debate because they didn't get any clarity on how Harris would fix their lives, fix their economy, because there's real pain and hurt happening across this country. And, of course, Trump missed opportunities to boast his, economic record, but the juxtaposition between now and 4 years ago is so clear at the gas pump. When we're buying a home, the younger generations, too, there's a lot of economic malaise and just general discontent in this country. And so, Harris won the debate on point if this was purely a scorecard. But her goal was not to win the debate. It was to make Trump lose by goading him, into defending rally size and retention rate rather than make her defend her own extremism and incompetence. So she was just bluffing the entire time. Trump, on the other hand, he struck a chord, I think, with most of his followers, obviously, and I think some independents. And so, Harris fell flat. She delivered this, beautifully curated, written, speech. And Trump spoke completely extemporaneously, and it was extremely casual, right? It was not prepared, I don't think, at all. And I do think, still, he won into the eyes of some undecided.
She spoke such a polished way, Joe, it almost made one think she already knew what the questions were going to be.
That wouldn't be surprising, Larry, right? Because the head of ABC News is so close with Kamala Harris that she set her up with Doug Emhoff decades ago. That's how long they've known each other. You're going to tell me that somehow there wasn't a heads up on we're going to go this direction, that direction. Oh, don't worry, we're not going to fact check your candidate. We're only going to fact check Trump. 4 numbers here: 5 fact checks of Donald Trump, 0 of Kamala Harris. 6 follow-ups of Donald Trump, 0 of Kamala Harris. This was an absolute disgrace, the worst moderating we have seen in our lifetimes, because it wasn't moderating. It was a 3-on-1. It was an ambush. And Donald Trump, to Caroline's point, quite frankly, still won in terms of independence, because what is winning? All right, you see these polls. All right, Kamala won on style points. Did she win over one voter? Did she convert one Trump voter? Did she convert any independents to vote for her? And focus group after focus group tells us that did not happen. And then you watched that interview last night. I implore everybody listening to this very popular show right now, Google Kamala Harris local interview. Do it on Twitter. Do it on YouTube. She gave the same exact answer on the economy, Larry, that we heard during that debate, which is, I grew up in a middle-class family, and people are proud of their lawns. Like, literally, that was the answer. Go ahead and watch it. She has no policy. She's never run a lemonade stand, Larry, and she's supposed to be in charge of the U.S. economy. I don't think people buy it one bit. I agree, particularly in Pennsylvania, which if you win Pennsylvania, you win this election. And right now, even campaign insiders are saying that is a very tough state for us right now. I think they're in more trouble than the media is letting us on to.
Well, she can be in charge of lawn care. I'm okay with that. Not so much here in New York. It's mostly cement care in front of the building. But we have big lawns up in the Connecticut place, if that's what she wants. But, go back to the questioning. The very first question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Harris couldn't answer that question. I don't know if either of you read Byron York's column about this. I think it was out Thursday or Friday. I don't recall. I missed Rourke on Friday, but she never answered it. She went into this word salad answer about middle-class families and lawns, and then, she's going to give you $25,000 so the price of the house can go up even more than it already has gone up, and she's going to give you a deduction of $50,000 for your new business startup that A, you don't need, and B, is already in Trump's tax cut plan. But other than that, she had nothing to say. Nothing to say. Now, Joe, how, Trump launched at her, okay? He just talked about, I cut taxes and the economy grew, and you had you're inflationary. I'm looking at his opening. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country. I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. That goes to Caroline's point, Joe. But, it wasn't analytic. It wasn't full of numbers, okay? Trump doesn't do numbers in these. Trump will do numbers in an Oval Office meeting. He doesn't on the debate stage. It's not his thing, all right? It's what I do for a living. It's not what he does. But he made his point, and there was an emotional component. You could see him. You could, and just last one here. I'm sort of going off and around, but Caroline's point is so important. He was angry. Okay, he took the bait on some questions, yes, but his responses were very emotional anger in the sense of here's what I've done, here's who I am, and she has none of that. And I don't know how to gauge that, Joe. I don't know how to gauge that, but I know there's something there that, it's an unknown, but it could be a big plus for him.
Larry, I look at 2 candidates who have lost in the past, and that's Mitt Romney in 2012, Hillary Clinton in 2016. What was the one component that they did not have that ultimately did not allow them to resonate with the voters that truly matter in those key swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada? In Romney's case and in Clinton's case, the one word is authenticity. She doesn't have it, right? Those facial expressions, staged. Every answer she gave, completely scripted and memorized like a prosecutor would going before a jury. So she's good at that. Okay, I'll grant that. But even the answers, it was all foam and no beer, all icing and no cake. People didn't hear one thing that would compel them to vote for her, right? So you can vote against Trump. There's a lot of people out there that will do that. That's not enough to win you an election. So I think that's where we are at this point where, again, go watch this interview she did with a local news station. There's a reason why she hasn't done one solo interview until last night for the last 8 weeks. Because she is not good at this at all, and it's going to be exposed the more she speaks.
This was local ABC in Philly, right? Philadelphia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Caroline, did you see it? I didn't see it, but I read about it this morning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think to Joe's point, resonance is what matters here. Because Trump is no great communicator, in my opinion. He's not Reagan. He doesn't come off like a movie actor. But Harris is almost so rehearsed that it's like there's a robot, and it's almost like she memorized answers to questions, and no matter what the question was, she would just deliver on cue. And so that I think came across to voters. They said, wait a second, the moderators didn't ask you that. They asked you, why haven't you fixed the border for 3.5 years, and why are you off on this tangent? So she deliberately hasn't connected with voters up until this point as well, Larry. She's kept them at arm's length by refusing tough interviews. She's only getting these glowing puff pieces. And so this is just a continuation of the same theme in the voters' mind. Meanwhile, Trump, he's getting really heated on stage. But it's not heated about him. It's not heated about her. It's heated for you. It's heated for the issues that are hurting your family. And I think that does resonate with voters because, he doesn't really have an agenda besides my country's in decline, and I really want to restore it for the American people.
All right, let's take a break. I'm going to come back, and I want to talk about his last haymaker punch, which was the 3.5 years. If you're this good and you've done all these great things, why haven't you solved anything in 3.5 years? Folks, we're talking to Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. Joe's latest book is Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys, and Caroline Downey's National Review reporter and a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back.
Larry Kudlow. From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
We are talking politics with Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. Joe's book, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. Hello. And Caroline Downey. Hello. We're here, Joe. We're still here.
Still on. Hey, guys, something went wrong. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but maybe you've got the mute button on. Who knows? Anyway, we also have Caroline Downey, National Review reporter and fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. I don't know whether we may have to reconnect Joe or not. No, Joe's still good. Okay.
Yep.
So, Caroline, come to you. There were a number of punches that Trump hit her with. For example, on foreign policy, the Afghan catastrophe, which he linked directly to the war between Russia and Ukraine. He hit her on crime. By the way, he was right about the crime numbers. David Muir was wrong. The new numbers that just came out, Justice Department, violent crime up 37%, rape up 42%, robberies up 63%, assault up 34%. So Muir couldn't even gang up on Trump properly. That's how inept he is. Trump hit her on the unpopular electric vehicles and the Green New Deal. She tried to call him a felon, Caroline, but Trump smashed her back on judicial lawfare and weaponization. That didn't work. Then comes the abortion thing. This is what I want to ask you. She says that you're in favor of a national abortion ban. That is a flat-out lie. Now, he said that's a lie. And then she said, you're not in favor of in vitro fertilization. He does favor it. Now, how can she say that? And how can the ABC moderators not call her on that?
Well, it's because they were just so transparently biased. That's for sure. But on abortion, I think like the thing with Trump is that he has been a populist,
Yes.
and that's I think what makes Kamala Harris afraid is that she knows on this issue he's with the middle of the country, and the moderates, of course, didn't want to lend him any credibility there. So they didn't fact check her claim rather they fact checked his claim when he said, they're allowing some states, especially the former governor of Virginia, they're allowing the states to execute the baby after it's born. Well, okay, here's the nuance of this. There are at least 6 states where there are no abortion limitations. And what the heart of what Trump was trying to communicate is that a baby in several places, including Minnesota, where Tim Walz governs, you can leave a baby to die if it survives a botched abortion and it won't receive medical care. He obviously lacked the specificity that he needed in that moment, but the fact that the moderators chose to kind of nail him on that when there's obviously a huge kernel of truth to what he's saying, and then they neglected to fact check Harris on her other extremely erroneous claims on everything from we have no active duty soldiers in war zones anywhere in the United States, patently false. We have 4 designated combat zones. We have service members stationed right now in Iraq. We have a naval destroyer currently in Yemen. They completely glossed over that. And I think, people who read, obviously, will know. But I'm afraid that on abortion, it's such a convoluted issue, and the details get lost on people, right? We see these with these referenda in these red states. The way that it's phrased, the question in the referendum, can sometimes, I think, lead people to think a different conclusion. And so that was a disgrace because Trump was right.
Joe, Concha, where's this race stand right now? How do you see it?
Oh, Barry, I see it as Pennsylvania. Remember Tim Russert in 2000? It's all about Florida, and boy, was he right. I think it all comes down to that state. And I keep going back to the same theme. Does Kamala Harris, can she resonate and actually convert steel workers, those who work in the domestic energy business like fracking, like fossil fuels, convince them that no, really, when she says she is for fracking, she really means it? Because when you look at, again, you have a record that you can compare with Trump. Under him, as far as domestic energy, we never produced more from 2017 to 2021. Then Kamala Harris, first day in office, she and Joe Biden banned fracking on federal lands. That is the record, right? And she said she was 100% against fracking in 2019 when she was a presidential candidate. So when you add all this up, I just think in the end, in that state, people will not buy what she is selling. She loses Pennsylvania. She loses this election. It's really that simple.
What about these Sunbelt states, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina? Now, I just have to believe Trump wins North Carolina and he wins Georgia. Now, I don't know about Nevada and Arizona. I don't know. But those are very important. And then one other thing, Virginia. There's numbers coming out of Virginia that shows they're almost even. And Glenn Youngkin, who is a popular governor, he's on the Trump team. I mean, I talked to Trump about Youngkin with respect to vice president. And although he didn't go with Glenn, he said Glenn's on the team. So I don't know. I understand the Pennsylvania story. I get that 100%. But those other states matter a lot.
And I think, Larry, that's why if you're looking back at mistakes made in this election, while I think J.D. Vance has been excellent in interviews, while I have tremendous respect for him and his life story, I think Youngkin was the better choice, just like I think Shapiro was the better choice over Tim Walz, but by a country mile, by the way. But to your point, North Carolina is always a tease for Democrats. They always seem like they're close every election, and every election they lose by a point, 2 points, 3 points. So I think that's out of play. And if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he could afford to lose Georgia, for example, as long as he wins Arizona and Nevada, where he has been consistently, even pre and post debate, up by, I'm not going to say comfortable margins, but relatively comfortable margins. In other words, more than 1 or 2 percentage points. So, I hear what you're saying. But if Virginia goes to Trump, then this election absolutely is over. And we'll know quite early, right? Because Youngkin makes sure that we know the election results that night, unlike Pennsylvania, where it's going to take 3 or 4 days because for whatever reason they don't start counting the mail-in votes until after the polls close, which makes zero sense, but that's what they do. I think that's where we're at this point. I think it's Pennsylvania and then add in one other state, Arizona, Nevada, or Georgia, and he wins the election.
Actually, with Wisconsin and Michigan, we may never know who wins.
That's true.
The recap may goes on for years.
It'll be Christmas, and who won there again?
Caroline, what do you think? You, Rich Lowry, what's National Review folks thinking? I got a minute left.
I think I wanted to add to what Joe is saying. I think what we're thinking is the same thing, that these other VP choices would have been more strategic. But I say Vance. I think there's a few folks at NR that are recognizing that he's been a really good attack dog lately. He's been, frankly, he's been treating the press with, the toughness that they deserve. And he's been tackling all of their questions with statistics and good insight.
Thanks to both of you, Joe Concha, Caroline Downey. We appreciate it. Folks, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk to John Carney, Breitbart Finance and Economics after this.
Janine Pirro here for Colonial Metals Group. Colonial Metals Group helps Americans protect their future with the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver. If you're retiring or retired, go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/Pirro for your free Janine Pirro Colonial Metals Group Retirement Protection Kit, or call 800-965-8004. 800-965-8004 now to receive a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver.